All right, guys. Thank you for joining me tonight. Appreciate it as always. Um, oh no. So clearly, there's a lot going on, and things are absolutely getting out of control. There's a lot of shit being said between. Thank you for joining me tonight. Appreciate it as always. There's a lot of shit being said with Putin and everybody else. So let's get to the 5x5s and then move on. Angelwood, 76 visit, prep to adapt Joe, flown grown, Adam, helicopter, Tony, thank you for the 5x5. Ozark, Lexi, another friend, Dobie, Dan Phillips, Ekte, excuse me, Devin, Giorgio, or Greg Giorgio, thank you for the 5x5. Jeep, Stokey, Kathy, Raccoon, Grit and Grace channels, Williams, Lisa, thank you for the 5x5. Devil Dog, what's going on? Mr. Tank, Bat and Poppy, thank you for the 5x5. Water Tiger, Krista, Tia, Sojourner, Coffee First, Mike, Howard, thank you for the 5x5. Smoking Swamp, Water Dude, Nancy, Morbidly a Beast, nice one. Thank you for the 5x5. Frank, Howard, Elaine, J Bones, Major, and Lori, thank you for the 5x5. No Juan, Let's Go, Beef and Chicken, Blaster Master, thank you for the 5x5. All right. So, a lot of threats are being thrown around. I mean, a lot. And maybe it's because everybody's posturing, or maybe because somebody is ready to do something, or everybody's just tired of the bullshit and they're playing the blame game. Donovan, Ghost, Chanel, thank you for the 5x5. Mike J. Paul, thank you for the 5x5. All right. So, I mean, I have a lot of shit to go over. A lot of articles. I'm not going to read all the articles because it's a lot. But so far, Russia fired back with an IBCM. That's an intercontinental ballistic missile that can also carry not traditional, but regular explosive devices, right? So not nuclear, but just regular ordnance. Anyway, with that, and that happened after Ukraine fired a Storm Shadow missile that's pretty much the UK gave them. So after Biden did what he did a couple of days ago, the UK followed suit. They were like, you know what? Fire the Storm Shadow missile, and they did. Now, I'm wondering where the French lies in this. I don't know whether or not they would have do. Thank you. He goes 55 minutes. Did you see the video? JC1. I don't know what video you're referring to. I watch videos all the time. There's a million videos out there in regards to like everything and everything. So you got to be a lot more specific. So Thomas Walsh said it was a IRBM that is nuclear capable. Yes, he did state. I'm gonna get into that. It was a new kind of ICBM that they fired. Conventional warheads. Thank you, Johnny. Right, I said traditional, but yeah. So conventional warheads and nukes can be swapped out on these ICBMs, or as what's his name put it, IRBMs. What does the R stand for? So, with that, guys, today or to dudes, because that's Ukraine fucked around and found out. Well, listen, Ukraine, I am waiting to see what their response is going to be, because it can only get worse from here. It's not going to get any better unless the Ukraine sits this one out and goes, all right, we need to talk this out, because I think the United States, I think Russia was giving Ukraine a sample of what's to come. But again, not entirely sure. So as far as getting nuked, is it a supersonic? Deplorable NYC prepper. He did say it was a supersonic. I got a lot of articles here, so let me try to zero it. Let me try to pull up the one where he was talking about it being new and fancy. I think all these people want to fire off their new fancy weapons. Right, it's an experimental hypersonic missile. And according to Russian Vladimir Putin, on Thursday, Russia hit the Ukraine aerospace plant with an experimental hypersonic missile in the first use of a nuclear-capable weapon against Ukraine. Speaking in an unscheduled television address, Putin said the combat testing of the Escalating missile is being conducted by us in response to NATO's aggressive action against Russia. Russia used, and they're calling it an ICBM, by the way. Russia use of an ICBM follows the claim that Ukraine fired both the U.S. and British long-range missiles this week after the U.S. president gave Ukraine the green light to use Army tactical missile system ATACMS to attack deeper within Russian territories. So I guess they're calling it an ICBM itself. This is not one of the articles, actually, but whatever. Where the fuck are we? Okay. According to Moscow Times, the U.S. officials confirmed that Russia launched an experimental IRBM, intermediate range ballistic missile. Not as far of a distance as the ICBM. There was, among other things, a combat condition test of one of Russia's newest intermediate range, missile system, Putin says, and in this case, it's a ballistic missile in a non-nuclear hypersonic version. He says that it was a response to the U.S. plan to produce and deploy intermediate and short-range missiles to support Ukraine's defense against Russia's invasion and occupation. Putin said Russia will issue notifications before using the weapons. Okay. Hey, guys, before we hit you with this missile, we're actually going to hit in this region of your country where there's less people or no people at all. I don't know why they would give the heads up, but I guess that's a courtesy thing. I'm not, listen, guys, I don't know much about war, especially when it comes to missile warfare. Ground warfare, I read enough about it. I've never been involved. But this kind of warfare, I know nothing about it, other than a nuclear bomb could wipe out an entire city. That's the extent of my intelligence. Obviously, I'm going to do more reading on this now, but the intermediate range missile system, that's pretty interesting. Anyway, okay, we will do it to humanitarian concerns openly, publicly, without any concerns about any countermeasures from the enemy who will receive this information. This is what Putin said. Russia claims no countermeasures exist for the Escalating missile. No shit. Or Reskin. I hope I'm saying it right. 3,800 mile range on that new missile? All right. Putin also asserted a right to attack Western countries that gave Ukraine long-range defense weapons to counter Russia's invasion of Ukraine. He said Russia would respond to further escalation. He also made a threat later today, I think it was, or earlier today, rather, He made a threat towards the United States and the UK directly. So, the industrial enterprise has damaged. Okay, an industrial enterprise was damaged, and 2 fires broke out in the city, said Dnipro Oblast Governor, whatever the hell his name is, while the city mayor, Boris Fitalov, said on social media, updated that a rehabilitation center for people with disabilities had been struck. The boiler room was destroyed and the windows were blown out. Information about people is being clarified, so they have no update on how many people were killed and or injured. The ICBM was launched from Russia's southern Escalating region as part of an airborne assault between 5 a.m. and 7 a.m. local time, comprising 7 cruise missiles launched from a Tu-95 strategic bomber and an aerial ballistic missile fired from a MiG-31K fighter jet. No shit. Ukraine's Air Force said in a statement on social media. What is it with these fucking statements on social media? Can anything be whatever? I guess I'm fucking complaining about something that's never going to change. But enough with making statements on social media. When was that a thing? Anyway, 6 cruise missiles were downed by air defense, according to the Air Force, which did not state whether the injuries or damages were caused by the ICBM, or the IRBM, excuse me. Traveled at the speed of 17,000 miles per hour with a range of 3,400 miles, during which can go suborbital. The ICBM can be configured to deliver nuclear warheads or conventional warheads. At least 15 people, including 2 boys, 16 and 17, were injured in Russian missile strike on Kyiv, Kryvyi Rih, 90 miles to the southwest of Dnipro. 9 people were hospitalized, including a 17-year-old boy. They keep throwing the kid shit in there, like if whatever. After 13, you're like pretty much a fucking man. That ICBM strike was probably a test. Nink, you're right, because it was a test. Biden has reluctantly signed off on Ukraine using the ATACMS to attack deeper into Russian territory over fear of escalating the war. How bullshit is that last statement? Biden was reluctant to sign off on Ukraine using the ATACMS. How, in fear of escalating the war, he escalated it? How was he not? Holy shit. The attack partially destroyed an administrative building. 2 two-story residential buildings were damaged. We are clarifying the details. How could he be fearing or is fearing of escalating a war? How's that even possible when he sat there and said, you know what? I mean, and listen, the whole we lost the election, let's set the world on fire, that is me rumoring and I guess making shit up, but it just makes sense that would be the reaction. Why would you reluctantly tell a country to do something knowing it's going to escalate and then say that in an article, I was worried about it escalating? Well, no shit. Maybe if you would have just left well enough alone, let them go after it, wait till Trump gets into office and let Trump handle it, things would have fucking died off a lot faster. Didn't Biden say Putin lost 2 years ago? I think he did. But this is not so much of a win or lose war. This is a stalemate. They're going back and forth with the grounds gained, grounds lost. I mean, and there's nothing, even if Russia takes that area over, there's nothing substantially, like, I don't get it. I mean, again, I'm not in that world. I'm not the president. Maybe I'm missing something, but this is a lot of wasted time and a lot of wasted resources, excuse me. The ATACMS missiles were first used in theater Tuesday, according to Russia. Ukraine this week also fired British-made Storm Shadow missiles into Russia for the first time, citing unnamed sources in The Guardian. Whatever. The report cited unconfirmed photos circulating on social media, purportedly showing the Storm Shadow missile fragment in Russia's Kursk region. And then you have the Chinese. North Koreans say they might supply Russia with 100,000 soldiers. It's like, North Korea's like, what can we do? Can we help? What do you want us to do? You want us to serve coffee? We'll do whatever. We'll rub your feet. Like this guy just fucking, and he's sending 100,000 guys that I think a lot of them are going to bail on their positions. Anyway, North Korea could deploy up to 100,000 soldiers to help Kremlin with the war in the Ukraine. Again, if Russia was doing that good, they would not need 100,000 troops. They wouldn't need 10,000 troops from North Korea. Which, by the way, the Russian soldiers are bullying the North Korean soldiers. And listen, to be fair, they had that shit coming to them. Imagine a bunch of fucking people that you probably never seen before, now all of a sudden in your battalion or in your division fighting with you, and they have never left North Korea ever, and now they're surrounded by white people. And they're probably staring at the Russians like, look at those white dudes. And the white dudes are staring at them like, look at those little chinky-eyed dudes going back and forth. So they were taking their supplies and bullying them from one report. But of course, the Russians and the North Koreans didn't want that story to get out. So it could be propaganda as well. But who the fuck knows? Unvaxxed and ready to repopulate. Nice one. Excuse me. All right. North Korea could deploy North Korea could deploy up to 100,000 troops to help Kremlin in the war. A figure that could boost Russian President Vladimir Putin's fighting force in Ukraine to upwards of 20%. As the relationship between Moscow and North Korea continue to evolve, an analyst by G20 nations suggests Kim Jong-un is prepared to flood Russia with enough manpower to decimate Ukraine's troops. The deployment would greatly bolster the Kremlin's force, which was estimated at 470,000 active troops at the start of 2024, according to a London Royal Service, yada, 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 whatever. Fuck you. All right. Additional troops will fill in the gaps from one of the bloodiest years in conflicts, with southern officials estimating that 700,000 Russian troops have been killed and wounded since the beginning of the war in February 2022. Ukraine, which boasted that it killed an average of 1,500 Moscow troops a day last month, has also suffered heavily in war, with the estimated 80,000 troops killed and another 400,000 injured in the month of September alone. Very interesting. Sorry. In March, Ukraine forces stood at an estimated 330,000, with Kyiv struggling to build up its numbers as Russians continue to make steady advancements along their front lines. Kyiv's forces dwindle. A sudden surge in Russian fighting power could tip the scale further along the eastern front. The incoming North Korean troops are expected to be shipped out in batches and rotated, with more than 10,000 North Korean soldiers already being deployed among the eastern front. Kyiv and South Korea intelligence claim that North Korean soldiers already in Russia have spent a brief time training in the modern warfare before being deployed to Kursk region to help retake the territory lost following Ukraine's surprise counter-invasion over the summer. Moscow has reportedly amassed some 50,000 Russian and North Korean soldiers in the region to push the Ukrainian army back. The issue will likely be the main talking points at the upcoming G20 summit in Brazil following German Chancellor Olaf Scholz's Friday phone call with Putin, in which he slammed the deployment of North Korean troops as a grave escalation in Ukraine. Scholz is set to meet with the Chinese President Xi Jinping at the G20 summit, as the CCP leader has remained silent about the issue. Now, again, they made wasn't so much of a warning. What they stated was, both sides need to cut the shit out. The United States need to either step out of it or come to the table with a peace talk. That's the gist of what the Chinese said. I think they said that today. Anyway, along with manpower, North Korea has sent hundreds of thousands of rounds of ammunition and weapons to Russia as part of an evolving media partnership. Okay, get the fuck bent with that last line. North Korea and Russia have recently ratified a comprehensive strategic partnership that Kim and Putin signed in June, which includes a mutual defense pact. South Korea has warned that in the return of supplying mass troops and weapons, Putin would reward Kim with key knowledge to improve North Korea's nuclear program and intercontinental ballistic missile systems. Again, shit is going to get undoubtedly out of hand. Now, the rundown for tonight, it's already fucking 10:22. Wow. You know what Stone Hombre, if I said that right, won. I forgot where I got this shirt, but it was on Facebook. I will look for it. Somebody asked me about that yesterday at the firehouse, and I completely forgot. You know what? It's on the back of my shirt. I'll look for it later, and then I'll put it in the next live stream, or I'll put it in the community board, like a link to the store. Who even wrote these news articles? Someone who wrote these news articles. Someone did. Get it? What I did there? Anyway, the rundown. Russia fires first intercontinental ballistic missile in Ukraine. Vladimir Putin launched a major revenge attack with the ICBM or IRBM on Ukraine after missile strike. Ukraine uses British Storm Shadow to fire into Russia. Russia nuclear doctrine was updated, and the threshold of using nuclear warheads were lowered. So again, that means they could possibly use tactical nukes, which are a smaller yield weapon. Biden gave Zelensky the authorization to fire deep into Russia. NATO may deploy troops to Ukraine if Donald Trump cuts support, which I do see Donald Trump doing. I can't wait. I cannot wait for Donald Trump to be like, Ukraine, you cut off. Now, there's an article I'm going to talk about later tonight. This article is stating that World War III has already started. When I get to that article, I'm going to tell you why that statement was bullshit, and it's in the first paragraph, and why they made that statement, and how it could benefit them if people believe it. Anyway, Putin claimed his forces fired a medium-range hypersonic missile. North Korea is to supply Russia with 100,000 troops. Putin directly threatened to fire missiles at the United States and the United Kingdom if they continue to help. Putin says Russia launched an experimental, I already said that, and Putin says Ukraine war is going global. So that's the rundown for tonight. I have some of those articles to read. I read some already. The moment British Storm Shadow missiles strike inside Russia, as experts claim, they may have been targeting a North Korean commander hiding in an underground bunker. This is the moment British supply Storm Shadow missile struck the Kursk region inside Russia today. The rocket destroyed a building with an underground control room where Russians and North Korean military officials are believed to be held up, according to the Ukrainian defense expert. Now, here's the other problem, guys, with all of these articles. Both sides are lying. Russians and the Ukrainians are lying, and the North Koreans. So I read these articles saying every last word with a grain of salt. Like, take this shit with a grain of salt, because who the hell knows what's really going on? We are only going to know what's going on, guys, if we actually have eyes on the war. Because there's not a lot of televised shit about this war, at least not here in the United States. And we could be told anything about what's going on over there. So, for every article you read in regards to the Ukraine war, take it with a grain of salt. Debris from the site of the explosion suggested the missiles were British Storm Shadows rather than the equivalent French Scalp missile. Now, the Ukraine, from what I read yesterday, they're waiting for the French to let them know whether or not they can use their Scalp missiles. Now, the Storm Shadow missiles, if I'm not mistaken, they're supposed to be launched from an aerial vehicle, and in this case, they were launched from a platform of some kind of a military vehicle, but it wasn't from an actual plane. And if they do, only the British have that said plane that can launch those missiles, so that would mean that they would have a British Air Force pilot flying this thing and launching it. That is probably why they launched it from that. You guys know what that vehicle is. It would make sense, because then that would be a direct involvement of the British in this war. Anyway, let's see. Western officials reported confirmed that Ukraine had used the missile to strike into Russia for the first time today, and after the U.S. paved the way for Kyiv to use a long-range ATACMS missile deep inside Russia on Sunday. Up to 12 missiles were launched into the Kursk region, according to the Russian report. The only logical explanation for an expenditure of a rather large amount of Storm Shadow scalp on such a facility is the presence of the command of the Russian army group in the Kursk region. Together, the North Korean generals reported Defense expert publications Defense Express. Russian Federation began to complain that Ukraine had started using not only ballistic ATACMS but also Storm Shadow and Scalp cruise missiles in its territory. In particular, there is a video from the Kursk region from the village of Marino. A rather large number of missiles were used for that attack. Publications caused that the target of the strike remain speculative, so they don't know whether or not or what was actually used. Next article: Russian fires first intercontinental ballistic missile into the Ukraine. For the first time since the beginning of a full-scale invasion, Ukraine said Russia had launched an intercontinental ballistic missile targeting Ukraine, specifically in the city of Dnipro, according to the statement of the Ukraine. Now, every article that I read, it seems to be that they're all saying according to them and speculation and unconfirmed. You'll hear that a lot and you'll see that a lot. We're not going to die. Who said we were going to die? We're not going to die. There's no dying here. Yeah, there's no... I mean, listen. Again, there's a side of me that thinks this is all theater. Theater that might be getting a little carried away and a little too close to home, if you ask me. But it could be that. Or this could be a legitimate thing. Now, one side of me seems to think that it is legitimate just by the reaction of the Russian president and what they're doing. Jesus, my back is killing me. What video was amazing? Dnipro. Thank you. Dying for the BNN, not the RNN. What the hell's the BNN? Oh, okay, dying for the... All right, bitch nigga network. My bad. I'm like, what the hell's BNN? Anyway. What are ICBMs? I don't need to go over that. You guys know it's a missile that has the capabilities of striking from many miles away and can be upgraded or downgraded from nuclear to conventional to nuclear. And they did load a missile, they did load a silo earlier last month, they said, or late last month. They loaded up the silo, and this was the silo this is the missiles that they loaded it up with. How fast can they change those out? That's what I want to know. Now, today at the firehouse, I didn't have the heart to tell the guys, but a lot of them seem to think that the United States has like this absorbent amount of nuclear firearms. Weaponry, And I'm sitting there and they're like, oh, we have so much, this, that, and the third. I'm like, we don't have nearly as much as Russia and not even close to what China has. So I find it interesting that a lot of people seem to think that the United States is like going to win this nuclear war and that we're going to wipe Russia off the map. We cannot wipe Russia off. We can hold our own. We're not wiping them off the map. And not with China backing them up. China and Russia has some kind of relationship. China's not going to allow Russia to go through anything without them backing them up. Even though Russia and China are having their own problems right now with their partnership. All right, so is Russia stockpiling nuclear weapons? The attack comes 2 days after Russian president signed a revised nuclear doctrine that formally lowers the threshold for the country's use of nuclear weapons. This includes tactical nukes. Ukraine on Tuesday fired several supplied long-range missiles and reportedly fired the UK-made Storm Shadow on Wednesday. I'm waiting for them to fire off the French Scalp. Earlier this month, Newsweek reported that Russian military loaded one of its intercontinental ballistic missiles that can be armed with nuclear warheads into a launch site with a missile based in western Russia. Russian forces then spent several hours loading a Yar IBCM into a silo at the Kovesk missile base in the somebody's region southwest of the capital of Moscow. Here's the part that people should listen to. Russia holds the world's largest stockpile of nuclear weapons, narrowly, surpassing the United States. Together, Moscow and Washington control the vast majority of global nuclear arsenals, a dominance that underscores the entire power dynamic of the Cold War era nuclear arms race. Now, it is said that China is closely behind both of us. They have an absorbent amount of nuclear warheads. Let's see. Next article. The article where, Vladimir Putin launches a major revenge attack with the ICBM on Ukraine missile attack. We all know what happened there. It was a retaliation after the United States allowed Ukraine to use long-range missiles, and things could absolutely get out of control. Now, here's where things get interesting, guys. A lot of people seem to think that this is going to escalate by Christmas. So by Christmas, we can all be glowing in the dark. Again, that's according to the experts. The experts seem to think that if we continue this pace of how everything's going now, we will undoubtedly end up in a nuclear war by Christmas time. A full-scale nuclear war, they said, by Christmas time. I'm like, could they wait till, at the very least, after the New Year's, start off the January 1st with the apocalypse, so that we can keep track of this shit? Because it's easier to start everything on January 1st, and then we could, do the math, But anyway, so here's an article. I'm going to put it in the chat. This is the article I was talking to you about what the Ukraine said about this being the Third World War. So the article's title, and I put the link in the chat, guys. You read the article for yourself. It's in the New York Post. Ukraine's former military commander-in-chief delivers chilling message: World War III has begun. And the reason why the Ukrainian former military commander said that is because it helps people back and or supply Ukraine with more money and or more weapons. Anyway, Kyiv's former military commander-in-chief said that direct involvement of Russian allies in Ukraine means that the World War III has officially begun. Now, this is where it gets hypocritical in this statement. I believe that in 2024, we can absolutely believe that the Third World War has begun. He believes it begun. Not that it has, he believes. Charles John, you know what? Listen, it's not funny because this is escalating pretty fucking fast, pretty quickly. And undoubtedly, we're going to see a nuclear warhead be used soon. And if we don't, great. But I have a feeling we might. And again, even though it'll be a small tactical nuke, nonetheless, using a nuke in this day and age is going to scare the shit out of everybody. Angry, we don't. Robert Hams, we don't know. Again, it's the Ukraine. Take this shit with a grain of salt. And it's a Ukraine former military commander. So take that shit with a grain of salt. When he said that, all I thought was, this guy is saying this so that Ukraine can get more cash for him, so that they can make more money, so they can steal more money from us. I heard or read the other day that Biden is looking to clear more money for Ukraine before he leaves office. And I could only guess that money that he's going to give Ukraine is going to be some crazy amount that we've never seen given to anybody before. And that's how he's going to fuck Trump. On top of already fucking Trump, he's going to fuck him again by giving us an absorbent amount of money that we do not have. The amount of money he's going to get is going to be crazy. Anyway, the military chief's name is Valery Zaluzhny. Oh, nice. He states, who now serves as Ukraine's envoy to the UK, said Kyiv's conflict is now a global scale following the deployment of North Korean troops in Russia early this month. Along with the presence of North Korea and Iranian weapons on the front line, his nation was besieged by international forces, urging Kyiv's allies to respond in kind. It is obvious that the Ukraine has too many enemies. Ukraine will survive with technology, but it's not clear whether it can win the battle alone. If they wiped Ukraine off the map, I wouldn't care. Or at the very least, get that shitbag president out. Every time I hear the word Ukraine, my fucking teeth grind. Because I know that this country stole a lot of money from us. Money that we could, like I said before, fix so many different things. But instead, we're not doing that. Instead, we're giving these people the money. That money's disappearing like fast. And we got starving kids, military guys with medical issues, whether that's psychological or medical, suffering from past traumas, things that can be, homes that can be built for them, better medical attention with the money that they're giving away. It's insanity. And yet we keep giving money to these people. JB's hush money. Yeah, it's just a whole annoying effect. Every time I hear Zelensky's name, I just like, yo, Zelensky has a punchable face. Like, big time. He has one of those faces that if you would have saw him in the street, you just fucking, like, you know, kick him right in the fucking face. Like the guy is just so annoying. He's just one of those little annoying gnats. So, this is where things get a little more interesting. Germany plans to mobilize 800,000 NATO troops over fear of World War III. A new 1,000-page document from Germany government published this week reveals NATO is preparing troops after Ukraine launched U.S. missiles into Russia. An all-out war in Europe may be imminent after the U.S. President Joe Biden gave Ukraine the green light to launch U.S. missiles into Russia, prompting it to change its nuclear policy amid a 2-year-plus long conflict. Falcon, please, with the Zelensky and fucking heels. Like, what was he doing? I have so many questions about that fucking video. Like, so many questions. And then this is the guy they picked to lead their country. That's like, whatever. Documents reveal Wednesday that Berlin had begun making hypothetical plans to deploy as many as 800,000 NATO troops, including Americans, into the Ukraine as fear skyrockets about Russia's nuclear capability. Fear skyrockets? Please. I don't think anybody's really fucking nervous about this. The document titled Operation Deutschland is a 1,000-page plan to prepare Germany for the possibility of World War III scenario. It details specific buildings and infrastructures to protect for military use and outlines a plan for civilian businesses in case increased threats arise. The documents also suggest Berlin was perhaps planning to push 200,000 military vehicles across Germany territory if the alliance called to join Ukraine's war effort. According to the reports, Germany has also advised citizens to prepare to be self-sufficient by installing diesel generators and even wind turbines. Oh shit. The concern is not contained to Germany, as fellow European nations, including Sweden and Norway, and Finland, have also recently issued instructions to its citizens on how to prepare if the Ukraine conflict bleeds into their country. It comes as Russian President Vladimir Putin formally changed Kremlin's nuclear strike policy on Tuesday. Moscow declares that it may now consider using nuclear weapons to respond to non-nuclear conventional weapon strikes. Why the fuck not? Why not end this year with a bang? Please, just fucking go all out. So I read that part already, right? The whole Russian new weaponry system. I'm putting that in here. I did. I talked about it. It's a medium-range missile. Actually, this is a different article. Putin says Putin says Russia fired new type of ballistic missile in the Ukraine and threatens to use it against the United States. I did not read this article. I put it in the chat, guys. President Vladimir Putin bragged about firing a new kind of ballistic missile at Ukraine early Thursday, while threatening to also use it against other powers arming Kyiv, including the United States. It's an unscheduled televised address to the nation. Putin said he sent a hypersonic missile called the Oreshkin. Russia for hazelnut tree. I don't even know what that means. Can somebody explain what hazelnut tree has to do with war? Anyway, to strike facilities in Dnipro in response to Kyiv's recent use of British and American medium-range missiles to attack Russia. Putin described it as a medium-range missile, countering Kyiv's claim that it was the first use of a full intercontinental ballistic missile. And that's what I guess they thought, but it wasn't. Putin described it as a medium-range missile, countering, I did say that already. Still, he threatens to use it against anyone supplying missiles to the Ukraine and warned that the United States air defense would be powerless to stop the ordnance, which moves 10 times the speed of sound. That's like if you blink, it's already there. That's fast. We believe that we have the right to use our weapons against military facilities of the countries that allow to use their weapons against our facilities. In the case of escalation of aggression and action, we will respond resolutely in a mirrored way. Resolutely. I never heard of that. Resolutely. Resolutely? Anyway, whatever. The U.S. was alerted ahead of the launch through nuclear risk reduction channels. Pentagon Deputy Press Secretary Sabrina Tsai said there was no suggestion if it was carrying a nuke head at the time. Ukraine officials described it as an intercontinental ballistic missile, which is designed to carry nuclear warheads at a great distance, has never been used during wartime. And they have this time. Let's see. The Sabre, nope, excuse me. Still, this is a new type of lethal capability that was deployed on the battlefield, so that was certainly of concern, Tsai said, noting that the missile could carry either conventional or nuclear warheads. The strike wounded 2 people and damaged an industrial facility as well as a rehabilitation center for disabled people. Unclear how many people are killed. Now, I have to ask this question. Do you guys support Donald Trump in helping out Ukraine for this war? So do you think he should end the supply run with Ukraine or keep it going? So 1 for yes, 2 for no. Let's see that Vladimir Putin revenge, stockpile ICBMs. No, 2, no, 1, no, 1, 1, 1, 1. Where's my stimulus check? It's coming. Maybe. Yes, end it, end the war. No, no support. All right. Well, you better get your stimulus check before we're all glowing in the dark. That much I know. All right, so the last article, guys. China warns U.S. over Russia-Ukraine war after missile move. China issued a warning to the United States after President Joe Biden authorized long-range targets inside Russia with the ATACMS rocket capable of hitting positions up to 190 miles away. Liu Pengyu, spokesperson for the Chinese embassy in the U.S., told Newsweek, realizing an early ceasefire and striving for political settlement serves the interest of all sides. It is important not to fuel the tension. China always encourages and supports all efforts conducive to the peaceful settlement of the crisis and stands ready to continue to play a constructive role in its own way for the political settlement of the Ukraine crisis. They always try to be like they're the good guys. Anyway, Ukraine fired a long-range ATACMS rocket against the target inside Russia for the first time on Tuesday, according to Ukrainian news. China presents itself as a neutral party, emphasizing respect for the sovereignty and territorial integrity of all nations, including the Ukraine, which has called for dialogue and peaceful resolution rather than military action. Although China has previously attempted to mediate peace agreements between Ukraine and Russia, it has faced accusations of supplying weapons to Putin for the use in this conflict, which is very interesting. Despite its apparent neutral stance, China has refrained from condemning Russia's action and labeling them as an invasion. Its diplomatic rhetoric often aligns with Russia's narrative, criticizing NATO's expansion and Western sanction. Beijing is a major purchaser of Russia's energies and goods. The war has deepened this economic relationship, especially as Western sanctions have isolated Russia. China has positioned itself as a potential mediator in the conflict. In early 2023, it released a 12-point peace plan of advocating for a ceasefire. I like to see this peace plan. China faces accusations of indirect supporting of Russia through increased trade and allegedly providing dual-use technology that might bolster Russia's war efforts. It's a refusal to explicitly denounce Russia's invasion has drawn criticism from the Western nations, highlighting a perceived alignment with Russia. Meanwhile, China denies reports that it's been supplying Russia with attack drones as Eastern European foreign minister met Monday to discuss the alleged evidence. Dun 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 dun. Yo, I am exhausted. Holy shit. It just hit me like a ton of bricks. I want to go to bed. Tube making machines. I think China has all our tube making machines. Mr. Bean, Scottish Fitness. Yeah. So, of course, a retired U.S. colonel states Russia has every right to attack NATO targets now. Again, everybody putting their 2 cents in, right? A retired U.S. colonel has said Russia has every right to attack NATO targets, TASS report. Lawrence Wilkinson, a retired colonel who served as chief of staff of former Secretary of State Colin Powell, made a statement following President Biden's authorization for Ukraine to use Washington-supplied long-range weapons inside Russia, telling Russian news agencies that Ukraine's launch of ATACMS would not be possible without U.S. aid. Johnny 308. I'm gonna tough it out, do about 20 minutes, and then go to bed. But because I did everything early today, so all I have to do now after this is lay the fuck down. I just got home from work in retail. Falcon, listen, I find that interesting. When you guys say shit like that to me, Falcon, like you guys got home and so you're watching my channel when you get home from work. That's impressive. I don't even want to watch me when I come home from work. And then you guys do? I appreciate that. I'm the last motherfucker I want to look at when I'm like, when I come home from work. I want to look at TV or just stare into space. I do not want to watch another YouTuber when I come home from work. But again, that's me. But thank you. I appreciate it. Anyway, let's see. 4 months, Ukraine pushed the Biden administration for authorization to use the Army Tactical Missile System, also known as ATACMS, to conduct deep strike in the Russian territory. Authorization followed North Korea's deployment of more than 10,000 soldiers to the Russian front line. Wilkerson told TASS Russian President Vladimir Putin and Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov have been explicit and correct on the subject. U.S. U.S. NATO satellite feeds and or personnel are needed to fire these missiles. Therefore, NATO has entered the war. So Russia has every right under international laws to attack NATO's target now. Satellite feeds and personnel are needed to fire these weapons. Right. So, Prepper Revelator told me that earlier. He stated that to fire these weapons, there has to be a military personnel from the UK or the United States to work this system, right? You're not going to train these guys to work this system. It would take months for them to learn how to use it. And then you would have to test it. And where are you going to test this at, you know? So, very interesting. So, we could be, like the general said, in a world war. If we have military personnel helping out with this, yeah, that's not good. Charles John, yes, I do. All these names that are not American names, I can't pronounce. I'm like, what does that say? But everybody else's name, American, I can. You know why? Because I'm American. Black and knees? And my eyes getting that fucking bad? Shit. Yo, last night was a busy night. We ran all night last night. And all on bullshit, too. No, it's coffee. I'm not drinking tea, I'm drinking coffee. And that was my son's mother's asking me, what am I drinking? I'm drinking coffee and I'm still fucking tired. I drank coffee so that I could stay somewhat awake. It ain't working, man. It is not working. I only got a couple more things to do, and that's it. Get him an egg roll. Jason has mid-40 eyes. Is it that bad? Shit. All right, man. I guess. Because I do feel like woozy, like unsteady. Thank God I'm sitting down. What to do? Thank you for the heads up. Coffee makes me vibrate. Yeah, I noticed that, right? It does change when I move. So do I stay perfectly still and then talk like this? Because I notice I'm green and then I'm not. Days, yes. My the house, it's a firehouse. Yes, we do. We do nursing home calls. Those are the worst. The worst. Every morning somebody wakes up dead. Yeah, I mean, it was fucking bad last night. And it's funny because I was passing out earlier today. Like, I was sitting in a chair. I was just like, and I was knocked out. Then we had to run for a fire that wasn't that big, but it seemed to be big. Now it was all amped up. So what do I do in my tired state? I'm all amped up. I'm ready to, go to work, and then nothing. So I go work out. And the little bit of energy I had left was gone when I was done with the workout. I was like, why did I do that? I feel like a crackhead right now. I feel like I can go downstairs and lay down with the crackheads, and you guys would confuse me with one of them. You're like, is that the Angry Prep? Was that a crackhead? Why is he looks like one of them. Because I'm that fucking tired. I want to cancel the what you call it, but I'm not. I'm going to suck through it. I'm going to tough through it. It'll be fine. How many of you still have the Ukraine flag in your bio? Yo, listen. Here's the one thing, guys. All of this nonsense, all of it, it's all fucking nonsense. And the problem is, is that we have to be careful of what we believe. And every now and again we get caught off guard. Even I get caught off guard. You know, I mean, but this is all bullshit. All of it. This fucking war, the Israel-Hamas thing is bullshit. The contentious election is bullshit. The fighting, the back and forth, the name calling, I'm going to drop a nuke on you. I'm going to take this up your ass. I'm going to storm your borders. It's like, it's enough. Enough. It's getting old. Now I'm jaundiced. My liver's shutting down, man. And so it's enough already. It's enough. Every day you wake up and you're just like, what the fuck else is going to happen? You know, like, I mean, listen, I'm a little excited about how this shit might turn out, but I'm also just like, we read too many of these stories. A lot of them are one-sided, depending on who reports them. There's a middle ground there somewhere. And when we read these things, I have to be careful of which way I'm leaning after the article. Now, when I read shit by like Newsweek and MSN or MSNBC, or I'm very careful, or rather, I know where they stand, so I just read it as is. I don't sit there and like believe their bullshit. But when they got lines like when Biden was skeptical of allowing the Ukraine to use the weapons because he didn't want to escalate the war, and what does he do? He escalates the war. It's shit like that. You know, it's whatever, man. It's fucking fatigue from work is good. Fatigue from work is good, yeah. Very good. But no, I'm not gonna slow down until I fucking face down on the ground somewhere. It's normally how I operate. But I'm gonna tell you this much. Now that I'm older, it's a lot more work to tough through it. When you were young, you could fucking when I was like 25, 26, I was able to work a 24-hour shift at EMS, jump on an ambulance for Cornell Hospital for 16 hours, go back to work, do another 24. Escalate. Isn't escalate and escalate the same thing? Now I'm getting my grammar checked because I said escalate. Escalate's the same thing. Tomato. Anyway, with that being said, guys, I'm going to head over to the Angry Truth. We're going to talk about the truth about Agenda 47 because the liberals are crying about it. Or at the very least, the liberals are trying to make it an issue, and it really isn't an issue. But we're going to start that right away. So I will see a lot of you guys over in the Angry Truth channel. For the rest of you guys, I will see you next week, Tuesday. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for putting up with my tired bullshit. And I will see some of you guys at the Angry Truth channel. Thank you and good night.